Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and you know how I always tell you that my favorite videos to do are the videos where I know at the end of it you're going to go, aha. Well, by the end of this video, you're going to go, aha, and you might go WTF, and you all know what that stands for, but we don't cuss. We try not to cuss on this channel because I know kids are listening. At the end of this video, if you're like me, you could be saying that. So get ready, because here we go. All right. First, I wanted to show you that silver hit $23. This is from Zero Hedge. Okay. That's the first thing I wanted to show you. Finally, you're starting to see, I believe, the markets react to the ludicrous behavior of governments and central banks around the world for the past, 50 years. You're finally starting to see it. Now, I'm going to get to the part where you're like, what in the world? But first I wanted to show you this, because there's two things that I want you to get out of my videos. And I keep saying this, two main themes. There are no coincidences. Everything's connected, and words mean things and phrases mean things. The guy you're looking at here, this is from the Digital Dollar live stream yesterday. The guy you're looking at right here, this is Tom Jessup, who runs Fidelity Digital Assets. He's talking to this David Treat guy who's from Accenture, which is a Ripple investor. Listen to what he said, what the dialogue here.
At scale.
Ms. Warren had shared a little bit about interoperability, particularly with the current
interoperability
account-based model. From your vantage point in the private sector at Fidelity Digital Assets, we have private sector banks working right now. So we obviously need the private sector to be part of this conversation, in my opinion. But how do is interoperability a possibility? How do we work as we transition maybe from the platform we have now to a new platform, or do they interoperate?
Yeah, it's an awesome question. And I think there may be two ways to think about this. One might be interoperability at a technical level, making networks talk to one another. I tend to think another way to get at this problem is perhaps the parallel here is the way we see the evolution of the digital asset business at Fidelity, which is at some level of maturity of this industry where there are lots of types of value sitting on blockchains. Our clients, who are predominantly consumers and traditional institutional investors, they're just going to want to see everything in a single view. They're going to want to look at a single account and see their publicly listed securities, their private assets, their Bitcoin, their CBDC. And this idea that all of that needs to be on one system, I think, is perhaps a bit of an abstraction. I think it's important and incumbent upon financial services providers, whether you're Fidelity or a bank, to kind of obfuscate the plumbing in the back end, right? So in the context of the consumer-focused central bank digital currency, I can envision, when I log into my Chase account, a screen that says this is your digital dollar balance and your account-based balance, and you can move freely between the two. Perhaps use a hosted wallet from the financial service provider, or perhaps move those coins into a wallet that you self-custody. But I still know that my bank balance is X, even though there's a lot of technology in the background. So I think if we're talking about interoperability in the context of making things good for the consumer or user, I don't necessarily think we need deep technical infrastructure to do that. I think you probably need financial institutions and other intermediaries who have the ability to integrate those back-end technologies in a way that's seamless to the consumer.
Who's been talking about interoperability from day one, folks? Where have we heard this referred to as the plumbing? Here we go. All right. From Anders Lundberg. You're going to think I'm dodging the question. I swear I'm not. We have regulation. In some ways, we are plumbers. Brad Garlinghouse at the Economic Club of New York. Anders Lundberg goes on. XRP was labeled a virtual currency back in 2015 by FinCEN. So what are we waiting for? My belief? For the banks to be legally allowed to hold digital assets, that seems to be coming soon. That very well could be all we're waiting for. But back to plumbing and interoperability. Here's Brad Garlinghouse from that.
Regulatory framework that exists today, it's going to exist exactly the same the day after. Before we went live with MoneyGram, we didn't talk much about that, but we got on the phone with MoneyGram's regulators, and together we briefed the regulators about what we're doing. And as soon as they understand that this is just a simpler infrastructure way, I mean, look, in some ways we're plumbers. Like, we're enabling a much more efficient plumbing, but the endpoint where regulators care is, some governments care about capital flow controls, some care a lot more about KYC.
In some ways, we're plumbers. Okay, and then interoperability, Chris Larson, back in the day.
Components of this Internet of Value. Again, blockchains, digital assets, very, very important, has to be an efficient one. Equally as important, though, is this, again, a big problem in payments is you don't have interoperability between networks. So it's really tough to move value between either networks or countries, and that goes for blockchains as well, right? And of course, blockchains can't solve this problem, right? Because blockchains are networks themselves. As networks, they can't be a network of networks. In fact, they even make the problem worse because now there's more of them, right? So you have more networks than they have interoperability. So we need some kind of an internetworking protocol for payments. That is going to connect all of these various networks and can do multi-hop. You have to move away from bilateral agreements, for example. Our bet is that interledger protocol is going to be the protocol of choice for interoperability. And the way this works, this is actually a derivative of blockchains. You wouldn't have had interledger protocol.
I think you get the picture. Okay. Now, and then Mickey B. Fresh gave us this. He says, David Treat, this is the same guy from David Treat's from Accenture, early Ripple investor, but this is David Treat in a webcast that he did a while back. David Treat, Year of Blockchain at Accenture and co-head of Digital Dollar Project. Interview is from last week. Accenture has been working with Ripple since 2014 and is an investor in Ripple. They are at the forefront of DLT, interoperability, and CBDCs. Listen to this.
There's a lot that's already started and underway around tokenization of money, tokenization of value, tokenization of securities, the exchange of the two. So we are seeing it already. The exciting part is to now be able to swap in the actual CBDC token exciting part is to now be able to swap in the actual CBDC token for what we've been using so far.
Okay. I think you get it. All right. Now, perfect. Here, now get ready to have your mind blown because mine was. It's time to have your mind blown, folks. Here we go. We're going to walk down a little path that literally this morning I got my coffee and I started looking around and this is where the path led me. And now I'm going to show you. Here we go. Perfect Symmetry sent me this. This was a tweet that I saw yesterday. But it was a tweet. This lady here, Jess Young, says, for those who didn't know, from XRP Buddha. Jess Young, wait a minute, I think I may have forgotten to do something. I forgot to give someone some credit. Down here, I forgot this guy right here. Yesterday I played this video too and I forgot. I want to make sure I give him credit before I go into this. The Cryptic Poet is the one that had put the Digital Dollar live stream. So go give him a subscribe. I just did. Give him a subscribe. He took the time to put this on. He's also on Twitter. And I'm sorry that I forgot to acknowledge you yesterday, Cryptic Poet. Okay, back to this. Time to have your mind blown. All right, so Jess Young, this was tweeted out yesterday. She was senior counsel at the Federal Reserve, former Ripple, Wachtell, IMF. So I saw this, and he's got all this stuff about her in this tweet. So I decided it might be time to go to go to LinkedIn and check out this lady's profile. Okay, first I'm going to show you her education. I screenshot these. She is Yale University and Columbia Law School. Okay, Yale is where Greg Kidd went, by the way. Next, I'm going backwards on her resume from the early days. Okay, she was a summer associate, and here she said right now she's senior counsel at Federal Reserve Board, former Ripple. Some are associate at Wachtell, Lipton, Rosen, and Katz. That's interesting. Katz, that sounds familiar. Then she's an associate at Wachtell, Lipton, Rosen, and Katz. So she goes from being an intern to an associate. My areas of focus were financial regulatory matters, white-collar criminal issues, and corporate litigation. And from there, she's a counsel and officer at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. That is where Glenn Hutchins is a chairman, right? Federal Reserve, and he one of the Federal Reserve, whatever they call him, at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. That's also where Timothy Geithner was during the financial crisis of 2008, by the way. So from 2011 to 2015, by the way, Ripple started in about 2012. So during the time that Ripple was started, she is at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. I specialized in central bank financial services, including Fedwire funds and other payment systems, international cash services, and gold custody. Folks, let me tell you this just as a little pause here. You couldn't make this stuff up if you wanted to. Okay? So May 2011 to August 2015, Federal Reserve Bank of New York. Let's go to the final phase of her resume. Final part of her resume. All right. Then from there, she goes to Ripple, September 2015 to February 2018. I created the legal framework that underpins the RippleNet rulebook and provided pragmatic product and regulatory legal advice on cross-border payments, blockchain and DLT-based solutions, and crypto assets. Then she goes to the International Monetary Fund from Ripple. I led the fund's work on legal and policy issues in fintech, including in the areas of tokenized assets and stablecoins, DLT and blockchain, data protection and privacy, and open banking. When she leaves the Monetary Fund in January 2020, she goes and becomes senior counsel at the Federal Reserve Board. I work on the new FedNow payment system. Remember when Ron Zagon was at what was it called? I don't remember what they called it, the FedNow payment system. Anyway, Ripple was one of the companies that was there. Payments modernization projects. I wonder what that could mean. And analytical research on digital currencies. Folks, does my now 8-year-old need to draw you a picture of this? Because this is a picture drawing moment right here. And another question for those of you out there that aren't necessarily fans of Ripple or XRP. Does your digital asset have any kind of story like this? Because I bet you it doesn't. I would bet you everything I have that your digital asset doesn't even have 1/100th of the ties to people in powerful places as Ripple and XRP do. Not even 1/100th. It's the one. It's always been the one. Now, I haven't even begun to blow your mind yet, folks. This all blew my mind though. Okay? Now, let's go to this. This is when she was hired, November 3rd, 2015. This is when Ripple introduced her. Welcome, Deputy General Counsel Jess Ching to Ripple. I just want to read you the last line of what she had to say in here. It says, and that's really interesting to me. It's something I've known for a while, that lawyers, financial institutions, and policymakers are talking to Ripple about that potential. I knew this when I joined and was very pleasantly surprised to see the extent and scope of it now that I'm fully on board. So she knew that lawyers, financial institutions, and policymakers were talking to Ripple, but she knew this. But then she joined and was very pleasantly surprised to see the extent and the scope of which lawyers, financial institutions, and policymakers were talking to Ripple. That is pretty eye-opening right there by itself. Okay, now I just wanted to show you just a couple of clips. Nothing too earth-shattering in her clips, but I wanted to show you a couple of clips of her talking.
In 3 years in a San Francisco fintech startup, I learned a few things about chaos. I worked at Ripple, a leading technology company in blockchain-based payment solutions
Wait a
and
minute.
crypto.
My sound just went out. Hold on a second. Okay, sorry, my sound went out there for a second on these earphones. Let's see if we've got it back now.
Working 3 years in a San Francisco fintech startup, I learned a few things about chaos. I worked at Ripple, a leading technology company in blockchain-based payment solutions and crypto assets. As Deputy General Counsel there, I've seen where chaos can open up exciting possibilities. I've also seen where chaos can thwart opportunities. And I came to understand the opposite of chaos, our very human ability to assign meaning and significance to things. I'd like to share with you today a few different experiences I've had at the boundary between chaos and clarity. So let's start with one thing that I'm sure lacks clarity. What is fintech? It captures a lot, and we could spend ages here just skimming the surface. So let's focus on just one aspect today: payments fintech. And let's break that down.
Okay. There's not too much, again, in here, I just wanted to show you a couple of things she said, not anything too groundbreaking, but we'll get to the meat in a minute.
Payments is where you have a whole new payment method. A new way for money to move that's different from anything we've seen before. So this could be crypto assets, or it could be a blockchain-based payment solution. And this is a space that I worked in at Ripple. And it's this space that I personally find fascinating and exciting. What's important about this category of fintech innovation is that you have a new way for value to flow. What's new is an opening up of the type of connections between people.
Okay, and I've got I think it's one final clip here at the 11:45, which I thought was pretty interesting. Here we go, right here.
Between chaos and clarity. The world of cross-border payments can be a chaotic place. There's real potential for fintech to bring some order.
Maybe a new world order?
But for fintech to...
Okay, I just wanted to show you those clips. Now, let's go. Let me see what I've got here. Oh, another interesting thing that was on her, this was on her LinkedIn page, was this. Many of you may remember this famous picture of Brad Garlinghouse in the room with Christine Lagarde. Well, this is what she had on her LinkedIn page. A real highlight of my career has been working with Madam Christine Lagarde, my International Monetary Fund colleagues, and the industry pioneers that make up the IMF's high-level advisory group to deepen fintech discussions. The values of openness, inclusion, and constructiveness in action are truly admirable. So this is a famous picture we've shown before. I didn't realize she was in the picture, but I think that's her right there. Now, and this is her bio from the IMF. She's counsel at the IMF, where she provides technical assistance to member countries and works on legal, regulatory, and policy issues in areas of fintech, crypto assets, central banking operations, So prior to joining the fund, she was deputy general counsel at Ripple, where she advised on cross-border payments, blockchain-based distributed financial technologies, and cryptocurrencies. Now, do you remember? Let me pull it back up, because here your mind is about to be blown. So do you remember? Let's pull this back up for you. First, before she goes to the Federal Reserve, she's a summer associate, like an intern, I guess, at Wachtell, Lipton, Rosen & Katz. And we know the name Katz, don't we? And we'll talk about that in a second. Then she was an associate there, and it shows her focus. Okay? So I decided to go look up Wachtell, Lipton, Rosen & Katz. And I found an interesting thing right off the bat. In the 2000s, the firm represents the United States Department of the Treasury in connection with the rescues of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Now, folks, I've told you for a long time, I'm not here without the financial crisis, which affected us all. I'm not here. Without the financial crisis, I've always believed that digital assets, including Bitcoin and all of it, was born from the financial crisis. I'm not one of those that believes that some guy, Satoshi Nakamoto, in his bathrobe created Bitcoin. I'm one of those who believes that Bitcoin was a testing ground and it was created by powerful governments or organizations. I don't know. But it all came from the financial crisis. And I believe that the Treasury and the United States knew they had a problem that they had to solve at that point. So anyway, just so happens that Wachtell, Lipton, Rosen & Katz was the law firm. You know, we know that BNY Mellon and BlackRock helped the United States Treasury because they were two of the firms that I've shown you helped during the financial crisis because they were considered to be sustainable. In other words, they were not going to collapse. They were tested. I believe there were like stress tests. They were two of the firms. By the way, we know we've talked about BNY Mellon's ties to Ripple. We've also told you about Robbie Mitchnick, who left Ripple and went to head digital assets at BlackRock. Well, now we have a law firm that was involved in helping the Treasury Department during the financial crisis. Well, here's that law firm. This law firm, I was looking around at some of the things they've done. They helped CIT Group in a $10 billion sale of its aircraft leasing business. Well, if you remember, CIT Group is who Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin sold One West Bank to. CIT Group is also where Stuart Alderati was general counsel before he came to Ripple to be general counsel. And if we go down a little bit further, we will see this one. Let me see if I can see it. I can't remember how far down it was. Here it is. Michael Dell and his $67 billion acquisition of EMC together with Silver Lake, buyout of Dell with Silver Lake and Microsoft. We know that Silver Lake was started by Glenn Hutchins, who is on the board of the Digital Currency Group, is one of the early owners in Ripple. Okay. Now, we also know that our beloved David Schwartz is one of the creators of the XRP ledger, and his name is David Schwartz, and he goes by @JoelKatz. That is his handle on Twitter. So I was just decided I would search her law firm just for kicks. So I did search her law firm. I typed in Wachtell, Lipton, and Ripple on Google just because I thought that would be fun. And I saw their welcome to her, that article I showed you from Insights a minute ago. And I didn't get too far scrolling when I saw something that just completely jumped off of the page at me. And that is David Schwartz, one of the attorneys at Wachtell, Lipton, Rosen & Katz. And if it was just David Schwartz that was an attorney at Wachtell, Lipton, Rosen & Katz, that would be one thing. But it wasn't just David A. Schwartz. It was also that they have a David A. Katz. This is how I started my morning with my cup of coffee this morning, folks. I want to finish this video by talking to you about something that's very important. And it's something that I have, and I recommend anybody listening to my voice. Folks, you see every day in digital assets, we see things about hackers and all this stuff going on. There's a thing that you can have. You can download it to your computer right now. I have one. I do it. What it does, it's called a virtual private network, or a VPN. And what it does is every time you log onto your computer, you have an IP address, and this is how hackers can get to you and try to steal your information or your digital assets. They have to get your IP address. Well, what a virtual private network does is it masks your IP address more. And I'm not a techie, but I know enough about what this is that everybody needs one. Every time you log in your computer, what this does is it goes and more or less makes it look like you have a different IP address. So I can go and I can literally choose. I can make it look like I'm surfing the web from New York City if I want to, or from Texas. And this is something that it's something that lets you surf the internet securely. If you do not have a virtual private network, you need one. And this is going to show you. This is the one that I use. It's called Pure VPN, and this is a 20-second thing that shows you about this. And before I play it, I put a link to this. They've got this 7-day trial you can get for only 99 cents. And it's the first thing in the link in the description of this video. And I'm going to put it in the description of all my videos, because safety as we surf the internet is the most important thing that you can do in digital assets. And I'm going to really make sure that I focus in on a lot of things that can keep the people listening to me safe in surfing the internet and in storing your digital assets and different things that I do. I'm going to make that a part of this show going forward. It's important. Watch this.
Are you sure that you're safe while using public Wi-Fi? This can happen to anyone. Use Pure VPN, the most reliable and easy to use VPN. Protect yourself from rogue hackers.
So there you go. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe and hit the like button, and tell your friends and family to go in the description of my video and click the link if you want to get a virtual private network set up on your computer. It's easy to do. You can just download it. Thank you for listening.